What does one say to an ancient Nephilim ghost?
I suppose you start with...
Dylan! You son of a bitch!
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on YouTube? It's Filthy and we're back with another Diablo 3 video. This is going to be a full guide on Soul Shards, which have been the season theme for Season 30, Season 36, and will repeat again in the future. I'm going to tell you exactly what all the Soul Shards do. We're going to tell you how to farm them. I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks about how to get specific ones faster. Show you what you can do with them if you don't want to use them. And basically just complete guide, everything that you would like to know. If that sounds interesting, guys, as always, a thumbs up brightens my day. Now, this is probably one of the most popular and powerful season themes. It's really well designed, in my opinion, because these Soul Shards can drop from level 1. You need Hellforge Embers to upgrade them. They won't drop till level 70, but each one can be socketed and it gives you like a special kind of like power. So we've got 4 that can go into weapons. So we've got the Drag of Lies, we've got the Essence of Anguish, we've got the Stain of Sin, and we've got the Remnant of Pain. All of those can go into a weapon. And then we've got 3 that go into helmets, which is the Fragment of Destruction, the Sliver of Terror, and the Shard of Hatred. Now, initially, they all start with like a positive and a negative. So the Drag of Lies, you deal 25% less damage, but if you're playing a pet build, you get 25% increased damage. So already straight out the gate, it can be useful. Essence of Anguish, every time you deal poison damage to an enemy, you increase your cooldown reduction and move speed by 2.5%. That's good, while you receive damage is increased by 5% for 10 seconds. These both stack up to 10 times. So each one's got like a positive and a negative. On the Essence of Anguish, poison, you can get poison damage on your weapon. So I've got Holy on this inner, so that wouldn't work. You can pass a poison base damage weapon to your follower. Some classes, obviously like Necromancer, Witch Doctor, will do native poison damage on some of their skills, but you just need to keep plugging away until you get a weapon with poison damage if you're looking to activate the base effect of that. The Stain of Sin, you deal 25% less damage, which is bad, but when you kill 50 enemies, you spawn this big pool of blood. Looks really cool. Increases damage done to elite enemies by 150% and lasts 15 seconds. Quite nice sometimes for pushing that one. Remnant of Pain, negative. Your critical hit chance is reduced by 15%, but on the positive, attacks against incapacitated enemies are automatically crit. So if you can stun, freeze, lock something in place, then you're getting an automatic crit. So this can be quite a powerful one as well. In the helmets, we've got the Fragment of Destruction. Positive, you can move unhindered through enemies. Each enemy you pass through receives a mark of destruction for 7 seconds. A marked enemy that dies removes 1 second from your skill cooldown. It's a little bit like a Messerschmitt's Reaver, so that's nice. If the mark of destruction, however, expires before the enemy dies, you lose 2% of your max health as damage. Marks are not applied if you're below 35% health. So obviously, some interesting cooldown. The unhindered is not really very useful in today's game because Altar of Rights gives that anyway. Sliver of Terror, very popular one. Cooldowns are increased by 25%, so that's bad. But for every skill on cooldown, you take 12.5% damage reduction and deal 12.5% increased damage. So the more skills on cooldown, the stronger your character is in terms of damage and toughness. And then finally, Shard of Hatred. You deal 15% reduced damage if there are 3 or fewer enemies within 25 yards. It's obviously very bad for bosses. But if you've got 3 enemies within the same distance, you deal 5% increased damage, stacking up to 50%. That's per enemy. So again, trash clear. You will see this in some push setups. So each one's got a positive, each one's got a negative. So immediately out the gate, they're all kind of quite useful. Now, the Hellforge Embers, these don't drop, as I said, till 70. You just need to complete content as quickly as you can for the maximum number of drop chances. They're quite common. You probably will find plenty of them playing around, but each shard requires 3 to open, and then there are various different branching paths. Now, whilst the Hellforge Embers are a little bit random to obtain, they just drop anywhere in the game. The Soul Shards will also do that. They can just drop anywhere, but you can target farm them, which is pretty nice. You basically want to be doing bosses. So I think, let's just have a quick look, see on max roll. So the Essence of Anguish is the Act 1. Then we've got the Drag of Lies, which is the Act 2. Stain of Sin and Fragment of Destruction are Act 3. Remnant of Pain and Sliver of Terror are Act 4. And then Shard of Hatred is Act 5. Now, you can just simply do bounties and you'll get some naturally as you go. You might want to jump into Visions of Enmity. Again, very, very good way for finding items. Lots of drops in there. For Act 1, you've got a real choice of 2 bosses here. So choice number 1 is the Skeleton King, because that map is always static, it's always fixed. You cannot get lost, but you do have to wait for him to spawn in and do his animation. And the other one is to gamble on the Butcher and then try and see if you can find your way. You can get lost on that map, but it is small. So my preference would be the Butcher, because I just think it's probably worthwhile gambling. Don't do Queen Arene. The map is massive and she spawns in like a random location. For Act 2, you want to do Zoltan Cool only. He spawns right by the waypoint. You don't need to bother with Belial. You don't need to bother with Magda. Vidian will not drop Soul Shards, so if you're doing him as a boss, he's not going to give you any, unless it's just a random drop chance. In Act 3, Siegebreaker is miles away, so you want to skip that one. Sidea is miles away, so you want to skip that one. Gome can be quite close, it's a bit random. Asmodan, fixed path, quite short, so Asmodan is the choice for Act 3. In Act 4, we've got Diablo, probably would pass that. Isuel, again, it's a little bit random. Both of those are kind of like unknown. They can be quite easy to find, they can be quite hard. Rakanoth, however, is on a set path. It's always up and then left, so he's pretty easy. So that is my choice for Act 4 farming. And then Act 5, unfortunately, guys, we're just shafted with this. Malthael is a fixed path, but is far away and has got the animation interrupt, which is bad. Urziel is quite hard to find, quite a big map, and again, he's got like an animation interrupt as a boss. So unfortunately, I would probably pick Adria. The reason for this is whilst the map is big and it is difficult and annoying to find, there are lots of enemies, so you might spawn yourself a vision. So I'd probably do Adria myself if I was looking for visions as well. And then if not, just take your pick, whichever you fancy, because Adria doesn't have an animation interrupt, which is good, but she's like, Amalthea is the easiest to find on Act 5. Urziel's probably the worst, so I would bounce between Adria and Malthael, but probably, as I say, preference for Adria, because every time you get a vision, you may as well just look in the first floor. It might be goblins, so that's kind of why I stick to Adria personally. So that's how you kind of farm up the Soul Shards if you're interested in target farming them. Now, the really cool thing about these is even with just one Hellforge Ember, they will become quite powerful. So the weapon ones, as soon as you go to level 1, you basically get the effects of all of the gems that would normally go in your weapon. So we're getting life per hit, we're getting thorn damage, we're getting elite damage, and we're getting critical hit damage. Now, it is on a range, so you can get obviously good or bad. It just kind of like depends. A perfect Soul Shard is going to be really, really hard to get, but that's what the level 1 does. So again, if we open up all of these helmet ones, we've got all the gems as if they were in the helmets. We've got the extra gold finds, extra XP, resource cost reduction, cooldown reduction, and life percent. So that's kind of pretty standard. So even with just one Hellforge Ember in like a weapon or in a helmet, you're already gaining quite a lot of power. So that's quite nice. Very good casual friendlies to start. Now, as we move to number 2, in the weapons, there's like a whole bunch of stuff we can get. We can either get attack speed, I think elite damage, crit damage. There's just basically kind of like added damage powers. So let's see what we get on this one. We've got cold skills, so elemental. So that might be actually okay because Mystic Ally is going to be a cold build. So that's 20% more cold damage. I think you probably want just something good for damage, really, basically. Yeah, I can't quite work out whether I want something else. So let's open up another one, see what we get on that one. Arcane, which is no good to me because I'm playing Monk at the moment. Physical could be useful. That's how they go for the second one. Now, again, on the helmets, when we open these up to the second level, we basically get a stat roll. So it's either going to be main stat up to like 1125 or armor or all res. I think there's a couple of damage reductions from melee or ranged. So we've opened that one up. We've got vitality, so not particularly useful. Strength, again, not particularly useful for a dexterity class. And then opening up this one, intelligence. That would class as all resist, 100 all resist, but still it's probably a bit of a bust. So these 3 are now all probably bricked. But when we do the 3rd upgrade, this is where we end up on the branching kind of path. So obviously the first roll is largely speaking fixed, albeit there's a bit of a range. The second one is lucky dip, where you can brick things by getting arcane skills, which are no use, or strength, which is no use on your class. And then the third gives a 1 in 3 chance of spawning a special power. So this one is the special power that actually I would quite like. So actually maybe this has been a useful video for me. Each time your pets hit an enemy, damage is increased by 0.5% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 100 times. You reach 100 stacks, they reset to 0. So that's really good for damage. For this Essence of Anguish, we've basically got the one where move speed and cooldown reduction can be increased up to 15 times by dealing poison damage to the enemy. So again, fairly useful, that one, because it will make us move faster around the map. But again, we need to pair it with the poison damage on the weapon. We open up this Stain of Sin. Now that what we've got is that we gain an additional Rift Progress Orb when you kill an elite pack. I'd say pretty useful for Torment 16. Past that, I think it's probably better to just add something damage-wise to clear your Rift faster. But I have used that in some builds this season. And then the Remnant of Pain. Hitting enemies with cold damage is a 50% chance to freeze them. So again, that would synergize with this because I'm taking cold. Cold skill damage is increased to frozen targets by 20%. Not going to be as powerful as the pet gem, but obviously there is like useful things that you could do with that. Let's open up the Fragment of Destruction. So when we apply the Mark of Destruction to an enemy, we increase our move speed by 5% for 7 seconds, max 10 stacks. So we've basically got ourselves a 50% move speed buff with that one. On the Sliver of Terror, we've unlocked the Cast a Devastating Ring of Fire after 100 kills. Useless for speeds because you're clearing too fast, but very useful in push builds. It will kill trash, and it'll probably do about half an elite's worth of health. And then on the Shard of Hatred, we've now got this is the kind of like meta unlock, which is 10% increased damage for every enemy instead of 5%, so you can deal up to double damage if you've got like a decent chunk of enemies around you. Now obviously I don't want some of these things, so we do have a choice what to do with Soul Shards that we don't want. So let's say we've got this Sliver of Terror here. Let's say I've completely perfected my build, I'm not interested in it. Well, if we're not exploring it, we can simply just salvage it, and out of it we'll, generally speaking, pop gems. I think we can get Greater Rift Keys out of it, but you'll either get 3 Imperial gems of any colour, and every so often you'll get one of the big super juicy gems, which is the max level one. So even if you find them, pick them up guys, salvage them. They're worth 3 Imperial gems generally as a minimum. Now the other thing that we can do, I'm going to have to, I think, make some gems for this. So the final thing that we can do is basically use them as an augment gem. So let's see, what do I not want? I don't think I want a Sliver of Terror with strength because that's not really going to do me any favours. So I'm going to get rid of this one. Rank 3 and your flawless gems will basically create a 125 augment. So very easy to augment out all of your builds this season. So that's why I was happy to open these up, because even if they're crappy, I can now go off and augment up my inner monk. Now I'm going to link an article to Maxroll that's going to go through all of the different powers. We'll just have a little look at that now. So Maxroll obviously still very useful, and it runs through basically all the shard stuff here. So the act location, generally what they do as their base power. But if you go down to a little bit, scroll down, you can basically look at the base effect of each of them, and then it'll tell you like the special power. So the Ring of Fire is the one that we covered in the video. This is a very powerful one, attack speed and crit chance. So basically, as you put your skills on cooldown, attack speed and crit chance increase by 5%. So obviously, the more stuff you can get on skill cooldown, the more damage and attack speed you have. Really, really nice. And then we've got the final one, lightning and fire damage, up to 50% elemental damage. It's quite nice. I have used it. Even on the Lightning Crusader, I think attack speed and crit chance more often than not is better. But it is interesting to have that one too. Then moving on to the Shard of Hatred, we did the increased damage. The pull, I haven't actually managed to open this up in a single shard yet this season, but I would like to try it for solo stuff. I know for grouping it can be important, but this will pull enemies within 40 yards to where the elite died, and pulls a maximum of 16 targets. They're saying quite bad. I'd quite like to try it. I think for like Nerve and Necro and stuff, in some speed farming, but in general, not going to be very useful. We also can have the move speed increase up to 50%. Each enemy within 25 yards reduces your move speed by 10%. Very useful for rifts and bounties. So that is the Shard of Hatred. Then the Fragment of Destruction, we got the, I think we got the move speed one. So you can get health, heal on kill, probably not very useful. 25% chance to restore 5% health when an enemy dies with Mark of Destruction active. I would not really think that's particularly great. And then we've got Execution, which you leave a trail of fire in your wakes like the Firewalkers, slays enemies that are below 10%, so it gives you the Executioner. Probably not much use unless you're playing support, but solo people, probably not very much use. Then we've got the ones that go in the weapons. So Essence of Anguish, I think we got the Poison Explosion on kill, which is very nice. Then we can, oh no, did we get the Poison debuff? I can't remember. First on 15 stacks, move speed cooldown reduction can be increased up to 15 times by dealing poison damage to an enemy. So that is useful for like speed farming. Poison debuff, when you deal poison damage to an enemy, they receive 50% increased poison damage from all sources for 10 seconds. Again, useful for the entire party, used in many DPS solo builds. Group play, more powerful options exist. Explosion kill is the one that I'm using on my Lightning Crusader at the moment because I do have poison on my weapon. And you kill an enemy, damage done, death blow in 25 yards. Pets and followers can't trigger it. Upgrades used in many speed farming or pushing builds. And yeah, I think it's pretty effective. Can proc area damage, but cannot be triggered by area damage procs. And then Remnants of Pain, I think we got the cold one with the extra 20% cold damage. You can get effectively speed pylon, so passability or move speed bonus is over 50%. Move through enemies, knock them, pretty rubbish. Don't really want that one. And then attack speed. When you critically hit an enemy, you increase your attack speed and of all players by 5% for 5 seconds, so max 10 stacks, 50%. Attack speed is additive, just like gear rolls. Some DPS that scale with attack speed might use it. Dragonflies, we got the stacking damage effect, which was really nice for the pet build. You can have a cheat death. That's pretty useless and you're never going to use it. And then we can get like a cooldown reduction on elite kills. This is like a mini Ingame. It reduces the skill cooldowns by 5 seconds. Not amazing, but it is a little bit more kind of cooldown reduction. And then Stain of Sin, I think we got the extra progress orb, which is quite nice. And then we've got the one with the negative affects of elites are turned off. Quite funny. This upgrade is never used. Pretty niche. And then we've got auto pickup of orbs. Again, this has been added into the altar now pretty much. So it is pretty much your only option is the extra progress orb. But as I say, I will link this article in the description for you. That is it, guys. That is pretty much all the tips I can think of about Soul Shards. By all means, gobble them up, salvage them, use them for augments, add a lot of power to your build. You now know how to target farm them if you want. Other than that, you just want to be slapping GR90, GR100 around, jumping into your visions, and that should get you all of your stuff. I've been a Filthy Casual. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take it easy, guys. Peace.